Archaeologist with the Idaho State Historical Society, and this is the Redbird Beach site. It's got the Smithsonian trinomial of 10NP55, which means that it's the 55th state that was, or site that was recorded in Nez Perce County. It was first discovered during the survey for the Asotin Dam Reservoir that was projected in this area back in the late 60s, and then it was updated about 9 years ago. And at that point, the former landowner, George Hatley, was very concerned about how much bank loss he was witnessing, and the number of artifacts showing up on the beach, and the loss of sediment that was so apparent. And I have been working with him and with the State Fish and Wildlife Foundation and Idaho State Fish and Game to try to come up with a plan to rescue as much of what's being exposed and lost in this collapsing profile, and come up with a scheme for stabilizing the site so we don't lose what's left of it. And I think that probably as much as half of the site is already gone or been cut away since the first reservoirs changed the flow of the river. We've got about 140 meters of exposed cut bank here, and there's archaeology from top to bottom. And you can see at the top here, this hearth, the bottom has fallen out of it, but we got a radiocarbon sample out of it yesterday, and I'll have a date here in a month or so, and that'll give us some idea of the upper limit of this stable end of the bar. And we've got at least 2 house floors exposed in this profile over here. So I think we're looking at a winter village of the people who were ancestral to the Nez Perce, probably the prehistoric Nimiipuu people. And I imagine they've been wintering in this area for at least 2,500 years. So it's a very significant village site. It's got quite a bit of intact stratigraphy. The bone preservation is remarkable. There's a really good record of the animals and the fish that have been taken from the river and from the surrounding canyon. And the preservation is good right down to 2.5 meters below surface. And I think the opportunity here to get a good picture of environmental change in the last 2,000 years is excellent. And of course the buildup of the stratigraphy of the bar itself is going to tell us a lot about the hydrological and climatic conditions in this end of the Snake River Basin. And one of the most exciting things about the site is that it's just part of a very small fraction of sites in this alluvial geomorphic setting that survive in the Snake River Basin. I mean, most of them have either been inundated by the reservoirs downstream of lower granite, or the sands have just been swept out by river regulation upstream of Hells Canyon. So we don't really have this particular facet of the pre-reservoir era left to investigate. And an awful lot of the field work that was done in the lower Snake before those reservoirs were put in was done in such haste and under such crisis emergency conditions that people just weren't able to frame the questions maybe as comprehensively as we can today. So it's getting more and more possible to dig small amounts of site and learn a great deal about the past, which is, I'd like to say we could do that here, but there's just so much. Look at the size of these prismatic peds that are sloughing off here, and I imagine we're losing this at the rate of several feet per decade. And I'll have a better idea when I can look at some of the aerial photos and earlier maps that the Corps of Engineers made and take some measurements. But there's a stone wall running out into the river down here that gives you a rough idea of how much has been lost just since that wall was built early in the 20th century. I'm estimating there's probably about 10 meters of loss right back there. So the entire thing will be gone if we don't do something about it. Things that I'd like to do about it are to learn as much as we can from the vertical exposure, get an archaeological field school in here on a regular basis in the summers, work with Fish and Game so we don't threaten the bighorn habitat, work with the public so that they're going to be participants in what's happening, and they're going to feel that they have some kind of investment in long-term stabilization. And ultimately, hopefully, we can bevel back the vertical face and get it seated in some kind of vegetation that will stabilize this lower sand unit, which is what's causing so much of the slumping.